Could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Sunday Night Football Overtime. Week 6, Chargers at home versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh, man, there's so many things I want to discuss about this particular game, and really a microcosm of the season, I think, for the Chargers. They're trending in the wrong direction. Meanwhile, the Steelers, winners of 2 out of their last 3, are trending in the right direction. And if not for a Juju Smith-Schuster fumble last week in overtime, I think they probably beat the Ravens. And you're talking about a 3-game win streak in a team that right now is sitting at 3-2 on the season, or 3-3 on the seaseason instead of 2-4, and sitting right there atop the AFC North division. And we'll get to the Steelers in a second. Just want to remind everyone out there, first and foremost, thank you for joining me on this edition of Overtime. But I want to remind everybody that tomorrow night at 7 p.m., we will be doing Rep Your Squad. So that's your chance if you want to talk about your team, whether it's this week's game, the season as a whole, you want to complain about the officiating, about your team, whatever the case may be. Rep Your Squad, man, here on the Louie T Network, 7 p.m., phone lines will be open. They were lit last week. Looking forward to doing it again. Can't wait to talk and chop it up with you guys, talking about all the teams around the National Football League. That being said, this game tonight was really disappointing. First of all, let me address something, because I need to get this off my chest, because I've been a bitch all year long when it comes to my picks, and I'm really disappointed in myself. And I know y'all don't care about this. I care, because I hold myself to a high standard. And I've been a real B word this year when it comes to picks. I've waffled back and forth on games that I've had strong convictions on. And instead of me going out on a limb, I went status quo because, quote unquote, that was the right thing to do. And I've been a real B word. I did it a couple of Thursdays ago. I knew the Eagles were going to go into Green Bay. And that was the one game on the schedule. Like, I left it blank and I said I'm going to come back to it. And I just had a hunch the Eagles were going to win. But what did I do? I bitched up. Packers are at home. It's Aaron Rodgers. They're undefeated. They're going to find a way to win. And I bitched up, and the Eagles won that football game. I did it again tonight. I literally left that game blank. I filled out my entire sheet. Left this game blank. Said I'm going to come back to it. And I really wanted to know what was the status of the quarterback, Mason Rudolph. And I said, he's not going to play. Not after this man was out cold on the field. Before he even hit the ground, he was out on his feet. I'm like, there's no way he can play. So I said, but I like this Steelers defense. I really do. I think they're going to respond. Like, it's funny, all of this Mike Tomlin to Washington talking, I'm like, they're not going to quit on Mike Tomlin. They never do, and that's not who he is, and it's not in the DNA of that team. They're physical, they're tough. They are the image of Mike Tomlin, and they're going to come out and they're going to compete. And whether they got a 4th string or a 5th string, they're going to go out and compete. And Devlin Hodges went on the road, and they competed their asses off. And I watched him last week versus the Ravens, and I said, shit, he wasn't half bad. And I said, why can't he go to Los Angeles? I said, it's a road game. Then I said to myself, what am I talking about? That's not a road game for the Steelers. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on, too. But I said, they can go in there and win. But I said, no, the Chargers are going to find a way to get it done. Look, they're still the Chargers. And remember, I disrespected the Chargers before the season. I said they were no better than an 8-8 ball club. And it's coming to fruition. And they may even be worse. All right? Some of it through their own fault, some of it not. They've got injuries like they do every year. With that team, it's almost not even an excuse anymore. You just expect them to find a way to overcome the injuries. But after a certain point, you get to that point where you're starting to have guys off the street, and it's hard to win that way. Or you're playing guys that you know aren't ready to necessarily contribute, but you don't have a choice. I'm not here to make excuses. This league is a war of attrition. You got to find a way to get it done, whether you're injured or you're not. And the Chargers simply haven't gotten it done this season, especially over the last 2 weeks against very winnable opponents at home. So, home again, but that's nor here nor there. I said, you know what? And it was crazy. I copied and pasted someone else's picks, and I just changed the ones that I thought, that I thought the team was going to win, or if it varied. And the one that I copied and pasted had the Chargers already filled in, and I just left it. I said, you know what? That's the right choice. I'm just going to leave it there. And in my mind, I'm saying that's not the right choice. Change it. And I said, no, I'm just going to leave it. And it came back to bite me again tonight. And I'm pissed. I really am, because I saw this coming. Not to the extent where at one point I was thinking about starting this stream early. At one point, it was 24-0. And I started to start the stream. And I said, I'm just going to hold out just a bit longer. And I'm glad I did. Even though it ultimately ended up being nothing, I still wanted to see nothing happen. I needed to make sure there was no life in this Chargers team before I put the dirt on them. And they made a run, and they gave themselves a chance. We're going to talk about the late game strategy. I hated the onside kick decision there. They did everything right until they got to the onside kick decision, and I thought that they just botched everything at that point. But we'll get to that a little bit later on. Let's start with the Steelers. I'm done. I'm over me. I'm done with my inability to go with my gut and make smart decisions with my picks, which is why I've struggled with my picks all season long. The inconsistency is driving me nuts because I don't have the balls to make the picks that are going to win me a pool or that are going to catapult me into a position to strike in winners and losers. I have been gutless this year, and I deserve what I've gotten to this point. But that's nor here nor there. Let's start with the Steelers, man. This was really impressive to go on the road. Let's stop the bullshit. This was a home game for the Steelers. To go on the road and play a home game and to do what they did with a third-string quarterback. You know how many teams bitch and complain and moan about not having their starter in the lineup? And this is the year of the backup. My man Sean Mack, before the season, predicted that this would be the year of the backup. And I dismissed him. I said, first of all, why are you wishing ill will on these quarterbacks? He's like, I'm not wishing ill will. I'm just telling you these dudes are going to get injured. We didn't think it was going to be to this extent, though. But Sean Mack, to his credit, said that this was going to happen and this was going to be the year of the backup. Well, it's been the year of the backup. The Steelers are on their third-string quarterback now, so there are two backups in. And when you look at the Steelers, this is a team that I think they've had some tough luck. You know, they lose Roethlisberger in week 2 in a game that was very winnable at home versus Seattle. They lose that football game, even though Mason Rudolph came in, gave him a little bit of something off the bench, but it wasn't enough. Then you go to San Francisco, you turn it over 5 times in that game and still had a chance to win. If not for the 5 turnovers, you probably do win that football game. But tough loss there. But you bounce back, you beat the Bengals to get to 1-3. You lose a really gut-wrenching loss at home to the Ravens last week. Could have easily been at 2-3. And again, just like the NFC East, the AFC North is one of those divisions. You're really not out of this thing if you've got to win, okay? The only team out of that divisional race is Cincinnati because they don't have a win. If Cincinnati would have won today and been 1-5 on the season, they'd technically be right there in the midst of that AFC North. That's how bad that division's been this year. Same thing for the NFC East. You know, 3-3 is the division lead. And the Giants are 1 game out of first place. The Redskins, I know this sounds crazy, and I don't believe any of this, but they're 2 games out of first place in the NFC East. It's crazy. So, you know, I look at the Steelers and I'm like, I'm not willing to quit on a Mike Tomlin coach team. I'm just not. I'm sorry. He's never had a losing season for a reason. And again, he doesn't have the talent that he's had in past years on offense. Now, this defense, I think, has a chance to be really good. Now, they still, to me, have to mesh and gel. They've got a lot of moving parts with this defense, especially in the secondary. That's always been one of the Achilles heels of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But that secondary, to me, is getting better on a weekly basis. If Joe Hayden can stay healthy, he gives them a credible corner. And I think those young guys, we saw Cam Sutton. He's coming of age. They've got some really solid guys in that secondary. I like their safeties. They've been trying to find safeties. They've been mixing and matching safeties. They've got some stuff back there at safety now with Edmonds and Minka Fitzpatrick, and this Kelly guy doesn't look half bad. So, you know, it's starting to come up, you know, in terms of that secondary. I told anybody that would listen, and a lot of people poo-pooed me when I said, of the 2 Devins, give me Devin Bush, man. Give Give me Devin Bush. You can have Devin White. Give me Devin Bush. And I get it. Devin White hasn't played a ton of games. And I watched him today, this morning, his first game back since week 1, I believe. And he didn't look half bad. Got his ass stiff on. Caught a mean stiffy this morning for Christian McCaffrey en route to a touchdown. But he was pretty solid. But he's not Devin Bush, though. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. And we've seen the plays Devin Bush has made this season. You've seen the impact. I told you this guy was going to be a really good get for them. And he's fit in like hand in glove in Pittsburgh. And then you look up front. This has been the best year for Bud Dupree. Really making an impact up front. TJ Watt looks like he injured something tonight. Not quite sure what he was favoring. But at the end of the game, he was in pain. Obvious pain. Wasn't even in on some of those plays on that final possession of the game. So he definitely hurt something. He tweaked something. But he's a good player off the edge. They got some stuff, Stephon Tuitt, obviously Cameron Hayward, and all the guys that they got up front. Javon Hargraves. This is a talented Steelers defense, man. I like what they're building on that side of the ball, and I think because that side of the ball has a chance to be really good, it's going to give them a chance in ball games. And I don't really care who's at quarterback. If they're going to run the football the way they ran it tonight, and the way they ran it against the Bengals a couple of weeks ago, and hell, even the way they ran it against the Steelers last week, or the Ravens last week. But more importantly, and the thing that probably made me the most frustrated with the Chargers tonight is you're playing a third-string quarterback. And you know what? I'll save it for when I talk about the Chargers, because I got a lot to talk about with the Chargers. This is impressive to go on a roll with a third-stringer, know what you have to do, and then go out and execute. And the thing was, Mike Tomlin kept saying it over and over again, we got to take pressure off of Devlin Hodges. We got to take pressure off of Devlin Hodges. And you know what? What's the best way to do that? Score points early and often, and that's what they did. The backwards pass, scoop and score by Devin Bush, that gets you on the board early. You then go down the field, and you're able to get into the end zone. And just like that, after a turnover, I might add, after a Phillip Rivers interception, then you're able to then get into the end zone. It's 14-0, just like that. And with that, the pressure was off. He didn't have to go out and make tough third and 7 throws anymore. They took all of that pressure off of him. And you know the thing that, let's get to the Chargers. I'm going to come back to the Steelers because I keep wanting to talk about it, and I keep saying I'm going to just wait till I get to the Chargers. Let's get to the damn Chargers. So the thing that was probably the most frustrating is that you knew that Devlin Hodges is a third-string quarterback, and they want to run the football, and they don't want him throwing the football down the field very much. They want everything to be kind of short and intermediate, and the fact that you gave up the underneath throw to James Conner the entire night, that shit was infuriating, especially me, being that the whole time I'm watching this game, I'm saying in my head, I should have picked Pittsburgh. I should have picked Pittsburgh. I should have picked Pittsburgh. And I'm watching this game, and it made me want to throw up. How many times you going to let James Conner catch a damn simple-ass check down, and there's nobody in sight? Why are you dropping so damn deep? Why are you playing so often soft when you got a third-string quarterback? You should be packing everything in and daring his ass to take shots down the field. Daring him to take shots down the field. And I get it. The very first play of the game probably scared you to death on that double move on Casey Hayward. And Juju was wide ass open and it was an underthrow. I get it. But I don't give a shit. You see how that throw was underthrown? Make his ass make throws 30, 40 yards down the field. What you're not going to do, though, is you're not going to check it down to James Conner and have him run for 18 yards. Or miss 2 tackles and have him run for 22 yards. That's what you're not going to do. James Conner is not going to lead the Steelers in receiving yards tonight. He's not going to do that. I can assure you, if I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose because he hit some plays down the field. He made some big boy throws, all right, down the field. What he's not going to do is make a living eating off of checking it down to James Conner. That's what bad teams do. But then again, we're looking at a 2-4 Chargers team. Because I watched the Bengals allow Mason Rudolph to dink and dunk them, to nickel and dime them all the way to a blowout victory on a Monday night a couple weeks ago. And I said, man, that's a tough bitter pill to swallow when the quarterback you're playing against, and Mason Rudolph has more talent, is more capable of throwing a deep ball than the Steelers' third string quarterback, right? However, if I'm going to lose tonight, Devlin Hodges is going to have to throw the deep ball. Not going to allow you to nickel and dime me. And he repeatedly just checked it down, and nobody's around. Or they're missing a tackle, and he's picking up extra yardage. It was ridiculous. And again, if I'm going down swinging. And I get it. There are injuries. Melvin Ingram didn't play. I don't care. Okay, that was just poor philosophy. That was a bad strategy with no adjustments made. And I thought it cost you. Obviously the turnovers don't help, and Phillips got to stop doing that shit. But that's who he's been throughout his career. You know what I mean? Like, there's good feels and then there's bad feels. And tonight was, for much of the night, it was bad feels. Until late in the game when the shit was out of hand and the Steelers were pretty much saying, all right, you can have anything you want underneath, take it. But we're not going to let you quick strike us because you're going to run out of time. That's what's going to happen. You're going to run out of time. And he did essentially run out of time. Speaking of running out of time, I thought the end of the game strategy by the Chargers was great. You heard Al Michaels, who is usually really good with the clock, saying the Chargers should use the timeout here after they got that stop. And the Steelers ran off 40 seconds and then punted. And I'm like, nope, I will keep all three of my timeouts. That way, I'll have a chance to get the football back with a minute and some change at the end of the game. And it worked out perfectly. They scored with about a minute and 27 seconds left. And then you look up, they got all three of their timeouts. And everything went perfect. They executed. They cut it to a one-score game. They had a minute and change left. Everything was right there. And then they made the Cardinals in. And I can't stand when teams do this, the old double dip theory. That shit is stupid as hell. This is my thought process. All right. If you got three timeouts. Now, if you got less than three timeouts, then the double dip is all you got. You got to kick the onside kick, get a stop, and then hope that you are able to get the stop and you get the football back. And you probably going to have like 20-something seconds left. But at that point, it doesn't really matter. You didn't have enough timeouts to stop the clock three times anyway, so you weren't going to get a lot of time back with the football. So when you got three timeouts, though, the move is to kick it deep. It doesn't make any, especially now, if you feel like the other team has Aaron Rodgers or Drew Brees or one of these quarterbacks, Tom Brady, where you're like, man, they're not going to be afraid to throw it twice if they need to pick up a first down and end the game, then yeah, go ahead, double dip till your heart is content. But if you're playing against a third-string quarterback named Devlin Hodges that just 2 possessions ago threw an ill-advised, poor interception that would have put the game away when they were already in scoring range, you're going to kick the ball off deep to him, all right? Because the Steelers don't want him throwing the football. They're going to run it 3 times, all right? 3 times they're going to run it, and you're going to get to call all 3 of your timeouts. Now, that's what you do. You know why? This is why it makes sense to not kick the onside kick, because then you're going to get better field position with no timeouts. You can't afford to have to go 95 yards to score a touchdown in a minute and 11 seconds. You don't have enough time, 95 yards, unless you hit 2 big plays, 2 chunk plays. You don't have enough time to go the length of the field. So how about you cut the field in half by kicking it deep, pinning them inside their own 20-yard line, own 25, all right? And then getting them to punt, and you get the football around the 40-yard line after they punt deep from their own territory. You're going to get the football at your own 40. Now you only got to go 60 yards. Now you only got to go 65 yards instead of 95 yards with a minute and 11 seconds left. It just makes no sense to kick the onside kick because the new rules have made it that you're not going to recover the damn onside kick. What's the point? And oh, by the way, if they don't even have to get a first down to make this game obsolete, because they could have essentially attempted a field goal there. Now let's say that they decided they wanted to kick that 55-yarder, and I think it would have been 54 yards, and he drills it. The game's done because you decided to kick an onside kick. And here's another thing, and they weren't even considering this at first. I'm like, I wouldn't even go for it. Collinsworth was like, first thing he said, well, I would go for it. For what? That's just as bad as missing a damn field goal. Punt the damn football, pin their ass deep, and they executed it to perfection. They couldn't have done it any better. Ball lands at the 1. Johnny Holton is waiting for it to come down after a gratuitous bounce. And they're stopped at the 1 yard line. They couldn't have done it any better. And that's what their ass gets for being stupid and naive to think that kicking the onside kick was the right thing to do. They deserve to start that possession at their own 1 yard line for being stupid. That's the penalty for being dumb at the end of a football game. Kick the football off deep. They got a third string quarterback who they want no parts of throwing the football the remainder of the game. They're going to run it 3 times. You're going to get great field position, and you'll have a minute and some change to try to go 60 yards instead of 99 yards and try to come and tie the game up. So I thought that everything the Chargers did leading up to that point gave them a shot until they did the inexplicable, which was kick the onside kick. It just didn't make any sense. And I don't understand why teams do that. Again, if that was Brady they were playing against, or Rodgers, or any of these quarterbacks that you know the opposition will be comfortable throwing the football with to pick up a first down, okay, if you feel like you need to double dip because it doesn't matter, that quarterback's going to throw it anyway, knock yourself out. I don't give a shit who the quarterback is. If I got 3 timeouts, I'm kicking it deep because it gives me the best chance to win, all right? That gives me the best shot, because if they decide to throw it and they don't convert and it's incomplete, now I get to save a damn timeout and I'm going to have great field position. It's the best of both worlds. There is nothing to be gained unless you recover the onside kick. And since they've changed the rules on onside kick, I think I heard a stat today, like something like only 4 teams have recovered an onside kick since they changed the rules. And there have been countless onside kicks. It's insane. I mean, the percentage, it's got to be at less than 10% chance. It's probably under 7% to recover an onside kick now. Why would you do that? It just doesn't make any sense. I thought everything leading up to that point was great strategy. I would not have burnt the timeout. They did a great job of saving all 3. Phillip moved them down the field. They got in the end zone. Everything went perfect, and then they blew it by kicking an onside kick. So it is what it is. They didn't deserve to win the game. They made too many mistakes early. This is the second week in a row they fell behind at home early in the ball game, gave themselves no chance. And let's get to the crowd, man. This shit is ridiculous. Now, I get it. We've all known that StubHub is not a home field advantage for the Chargers. So I don't really want to beat that horse. That shit's been dead a long time ago. This is the thing that was so fun. And I'm a Redskins fan. So I know the first thing. All right. I know the very first thing about a stadium takeover. All right. Our stadium, FedEx Field, gets invaded by opposing teams to the point now where today was our first home game. We played in Miami, and today was our first home game of the season. Now, we've played 3 games at FedEx Field this year. None of them were home games. All right? The Cowboys came in and took over in week 2. The Bears came in and took over in week 3. And the Patriots came over and took over in week 5. Okay? So, I know the first thing about stadium takeovers. They happen all the time in Washington. It's nothing new. This is the thing that makes it so much more egregious in Los Angeles with this Chargers football team. If there's a stadium takeover at FedEx, it's a stadium takeover of 73,000, okay? So on TV, 73,000 spread out. It still looks like there's enough Redskins fans to cover the spread to make it not look as bad on television. It's not only until the Redskins start getting their ass whooped midway through the third quarter and the Redskins fans start to leave that it looks really bad. You start hearing chants of the other team's moniker, whatever it is, whether it's Raiders, or, Skull or Gold Cowboys or whatever. But when it's a 7,000 StubHub Center soccer field stadium where it's intimate, the takeover is real and it looks like it's literally a road game. After that first touchdown, the Steelers scored. And they went to the pan shot of Chris Watt. What the hell is that Watt name? God damn it. The Watt brother, TJ Watt. That's his damn name. And he goes over to the crowd. Him and Juju go like this. Man, it was nothing but Steelers fans. It was ridiculous. And literally, the Chargers at some points of the game actually went to a silent count at home. They're chanting defense while the Chargers are on offense, and it sounded like they were at Heinz Field. It was ridiculous. Now, that never happens in a bigger stadium. If you've got a 70,000 seat stadium, even if it's 50-50, even if the other team's 60-40 at your stadium, it's not going to be that bad. But think about how intimate 35,000 fans are, and then think about 50 or 60 or even 70 in the case of the Steelers, probably 80% of the crowd being there for the opposition. It literally feels like a road game. I mean, it was crazy. On that muffed punt, that wasn't a muffed punt. It should have been fair catch interference. Why didn't they get 15 yards for that? I'll never understand that. But on that muff initially, when the official came out and said, hey, the ball was touched, he called for a fair catch. He has to get an opportunity to catch it. You would have thought that the call went against the Chargers, and then I had to rewire my brain to remember, bruh, this is a Steelers home game. So they're upset that the call went against the Steelers. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. The Chargers aren't actually at home in this game, because I'm like, that's weird. They're mad. They're upset. No, the call went in your favor. And I'm like, oh no, it didn't go in their favor. So that was really, really rude how the Steelers just took over their stadium. And that's the Steelers. There are certain teams, Cowboys, Packers, Steelers, that they travel well. They'll take over your shit. They will come in, infiltrate, and tear your shit up. And that was one of those situations where I saw that one before the season started. I said that was a game that the Steelers were going to go in there and win. But I thought Roethlisberger was going to be there. I didn't expect them to go in there and do what they did with the third-string quarterback. That was pretty impressive. It really was. And now they're 2-4. Both teams leave this game at 2-4. But the Steelers 2-4 has an upward trajectory. Meanwhile, the Chargers 2-4 is going in the opposite direction. This just looks like another one. And I said this before the season, and Chargers fans came after me. And I talked about this, and I had a really spirited conversation with my man Craig. He called in, and we talked about this Chargers team. And I said, I just don't see the things that went well for you last year, because I said a lot of those wins were last-second comebacks, and they were lucky, and you just felt like they had that good mojo and vibe going last year. I said, I just don't see those things happening again for you. I thought last year was an aberration. You're going to lose those ball games. Well, they're not even close in a lot of these games. They're not even giving themselves a chance in these ball games. They're falling down early, and it's one of those things where, Phillip Rivers tries to come back miraculously late, but you can't keep putting yourself in these types of positions. And if not for, overtime versus Indy, you could easily be 1-5 at this point. I mean, you're not that far away from being 1-5 or winless on the season. It's amazing how this season has gone for the Chargers, but it is what it is. They're 2-4 after tonight's loss, and I just was so disappointed in them, the way they came out in this game. To know that you're going up against a third-string quarterback, the goal is to put pressure on him, to make him feel like he has to do it on his own, to take away the run, to take away the short passing game. I would have condensed everything. I would have had all 11 defenders within 12 to 15 yards of the line of scrimmage and dared this man to chuck it down the field. I would have absolutely double dog dared him to throw it 30, 40 yards down the field. And if he did it, I tip my cap and say, you got me, bro. You got me. Good throw. But I wasn't going to let them check it down on me and eat me up that way. It just was too easy tonight. It was too easy. It's almost as if they didn't understand who they were playing against. And that's the frustrating part about tonight's loss. But in any event, enough of me talking. Let's get to the comment section and see what we got. Captain Spartan 04 says, what it do, baby? My Steelers got a dub. Trying to tell everyone we aren't a bad team. We just lost to some really good teams. I agree with that. And even to further your point, despite the losses, you were in those ball games. It's not like you getting your ass handed to you by these good teams. The only game you got blown out in was the Patriots game in week 1. And that was unfair to you to put you in that position. They could have put a sacrificial lamb in that game. Nobody wants to play the Patriots on ring night. It's just a tough ask of anybody. I think the only team that has ever gone into New England and won on ring night was the Chiefs. And they had to score 40 to do it. And it's just a tough ask to have anybody go in there and get a dub on ring night for the Patriots. I just didn't like that spot for you. But outside of that, you were in the Steelers. You were in the Seahawks game. Roethlisberger goes down. You still had a chance. You were in the 49ers game. Again, 5 turnovers doomed you in that football game. And you were in the Ravens game and really probably should have won the Ravens game, to be honest with you. They got out to a quick start, but you had ample opportunities to win that football game and just let it slip through your fingers. So you've been in ball games. And so I'm with you, man. This is not a bad Steelers football team. The record doesn't really indicate where this team is right now, but we'll see if they're able to continue to put together really good performances, because to me, that's 3 really good performances in a row. Vincent Cole says, no, if you want to talk Titans, we'll talk Titans tomorrow. That's what Rep Your Squad is for. Tonight, we're just going to keep it about the 2 teams that were playing in this game. Dark Sealer 1995 says, the Chargers got embarrassed by a duck, and losing games like these are why the Chargers aren't taken seriously ever. Quack, quack, Lou. Yeah, man. I mean, look, I didn't think the Chargers were going to be very good before the season started, so this kind of falls in line with what I thought they were going to be. I'm just disappointed that they didn't take advantage of this. You know, the thing that the NFL schedule provides for you is opportunities. I hate the schedule game before the season starts because you don't know who's going to be good, who's not going to be good. Because a lot of times what we base our predictions for the upcoming season on is what a team did the year previous. And we all know, not only is the league a year-to-year league, it's a week-to-week league. All right, so to base what you project a team's final record to be for the upcoming season based off of what teams did a season ago is a farce. However, what the NFL schedule provides you with on a week-to-week basis is opportunity. And that's the thing is, who knew that in week number 4, the Cowboys were going to be on Sunday Night Football versus New Orleans Saints without Drew Brees? Like, that's an opportunity for you to go to New Orleans and get a win. Now, they lost that football game because the Saints are really good on defense, which is what I tried to tell everybody earlier in the season. But that was an opportunity afforded to them that they didn't think they were going to get when the schedule first came out. Anybody that had the Steelers on their schedule, you looked and you said, whoa, no Roethlisberger. That changes everything. Now we have a legitimate shot to beat the Steelers. And this was a great opportunity for the Chargers. Whether Roethlisberger was playing or not, this was a winnable football game at home. All right. Now it turned out to be a road game, but no Roethlisberger should. And then to take it a step further, no Roethlisberger, no Mason Rudolph. You're playing against a 3rd-string quarterback making his first start. The opportunity was presented for you to get back to 500 on the season, and you squandered it. And that's exactly what Dark Sealer is talking about. That's why people find it tough to take the Chargers seriously. Here's a great opportunity for you to get a win, get back to 500, and you blow it. And to be honest with you, you weren't really even close. I mean, the final score indicates that this was a close ball game, but at the start of the 4th quarter, it was 24-3. So this game really wasn't close. Anyway, Burgundy and Gold 21 says, I thought the Redskins attendance was bad, but the Chargers stands. Yikes. So again, the thing that makes the Chargers game seems worse is that it's a smaller, more intimate stadium. All right. It's a soccer field. This is not supposed to be where football games are being held. American football games are being held. That's why the new stadium, I don't know if it's going to change when they get into the new stadium. I don't know if all of a sudden, fans are going to show up and, stop other teams from infiltrating. I don't know if the Chargers will ever really have the fan base that they had in San Diego. And it is what it is at this point. There's really no turning back now. But once they get into a bigger stadium, it won't be as bad. You know what I mean? If that new stadium seats 65,000, it'll be way better. Even if it's a 50-50 split, it'll be way better than 50% of 35 or 40,000, which just sounds way more intimidating for a home team. It's rough on the Chargers. It really is. Let's see. Ree is talking about Jameis. Let's see. Big Blue Rising says, I can see the Steelers tying the division by week 10. Ravens don't look convincing. I'm with you. Um, the thing about the Ravens that's so scary with them is that their defense isn't what it once was. You know, the offense, they've got their moments. They're going to be a little shaky on offense because Lamar Jackson still has some growing to do. And we knew that. You know, remember, this is a guy that at one point wasn't going to play last year. Then Joe Flacco gets injured. He gets pressed into action. They win like 7 or 8 straight. They win the division, and you know, rest is history. He's their starter now, but he's still learning, and they're still doing things to make him comfortable. But that's not the problem. The problem is the defense isn't as good as they were a season ago. That's the thing that we didn't account for. We just assumed the defense was going to pick right up where they left off, and when you allow as many guys as they allowed to leave in free agency, you're going to have a dramatic drop-off on defense, and we've seen that. And I think that's what's going to doom the Ravens more so than anything else. That, and then now they're having some injuries start to pile up on them as well. Let's see. DMV fan says, the Chargers really lost to something called Devlin Hodges. Disappointing from them, to say the least. I mean, it is what it is, man. I've already kind of talked about how disappointing of a loss this is. But Chargers fans have experienced this before. This isn't their first rodeo with a disappointing season or an outcome. So I'm pretty sure they're taking this in stride. But it doesn't make it any easier to swallow, especially coming off the season they had last year and the expectations going into this year's season. And I can tell you this much. Melvin Gordon the third, since he's come back, has been a non-factor. I don't know if the football gods have stepped in and said, bro, you don't get to sit out, you know, the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season and think you're just going to jump in and have an impact. But he struggled. I mean, 8 carries, 18 yards. And I get it. You fall behind early, it really takes the ability to run the football out of the game. But it's not like they were down 28-0. They were down 14-0. They were down 7-0. They were down 21-0. They could have still run the football. They just didn't have any success. They weren't having any success. Let's see. Yes, I was nervous, Reed, to answer your question. Let's see. Don't forget, while I got you guys here, tomorrow, Rep Your Squad, 7 p.m. Join me as we talk about any and every team under the sun. The floor is yours. You call in. You talk about your squad. Rep Your Squad tomorrow, 7 p.m. Join me tomorrow. Let's see. Looks like that's it. No, Captain Spartan says, don't forget this was Juju's homecoming game. You know for sure he brought a lot of fans. I mean, he was hyped, and there were a ton of Steelers fans, and I know some of them were family members, friends of his, that sort of thing. But my goodness, that's what the Steelers do, though. Again, Packers, Steelers, Cowboys, they'll go in and take over your stadium, and the Steelers definitely took over their stadium. But this isn't the first, nor will it be the last team to take over the StubHub Center. This is what happens to the Chargers routinely, so not a surprise. Not a surprise at all. Let's see. We got HHC Lunar says, what happened to Keenan Allen? He cost me my undefeated record in fantasy. Really disappointed with his output tonight. Seems like Rivers really was targeting 2 guys in particular when he wasn't dumping it down because he was under duress. And I talked about this Chargers offensive line being a problem before the season started. That was before the embolism for their left tackle. And, you know, the struggles of Sam Tevy continues. He wasn't even supposed to be playing this year. But, you know, I didn't love the pick of Trey Pipkins in the 3rd round. And I'm like, what are you doing? You need a guy that can help you now. But it is what it is. Their offensive line isn't good enough. You lose Marquise. You lose Pouncey. I never remember which is which, Mike or Marquise. They lose a Pouncey for the rest of the season. That hurts their offensive line. It already wasn't all that great to begin with. He was under duress for much of the night. And so when he wasn't checking it down out of necessity, he was either going to Hunter Henry, and man, does he make a huge difference in this offense. Thought he was outstanding in this game. He just got to stay healthy, but it was either to him or Mike Williams. You know, late we saw the undrafted guy getting off, but Keenan Allen was really a non-factor in this football game. That was pretty disappointing. Um, let's see. HHC Lunar says, is the Charger season over? No, it's not over. I mean, you look at that division, they're 2 games out of first place. The Raiders have played good football. The Chiefs are faltering right now, and Patrick Mahomes is a little banged up, and they're searching for answers. That's 2 straight losses at home for them. That division's wide open. All of a sudden, here comes Denver. 2 straight wins. They're now 2-4 on the season. They easily could be 4-2. Should have beaten the Bears and Jags at home. Controversial calls really hurt them in both of those ball games. That division's wide open. No, they're not. Their season's not over. It's just, if they're going to continue to play like this, their head coach said it last week after the game. If we're going to play like that, we're not going to beat anybody. And they did it again tonight. And their season's not over, but they got to play much better than they did the last 2 weeks if they want a chance to win ball games moving forward. HAC Lunar says, with Chargers sucking too, are the Texans now the biggest threat to the Pats? Because Watson looking like an MVP. They may be. You know, I believe they play the Patriots again this year. As a matter of fact, I know they play the Patriots because they won the division again last year. So we're going to get to see what that looks like. They've always played the Patriots tough. They just never do enough to win. Maybe this is the year they finally get over the hump and find a way to beat the Patriots. We'll see. But I still don't know if they're good enough to beat them or not. There's still, to me, something missing with the Texans, even though they've been finding ways to win ball games. There's still something missing for me with them. But they've been impressive the last 2 weeks with some big wins to get to 4-2 on the season. KT the Southern Gent says, what happened to the Chargers run game? He said, also, how funny was the Dallas loss? The Dallas loss actually was interesting. Again, that's something we would talk about tomorrow. But as far as the Chargers run game is concerned, their offensive line just isn't very good right now. And it's hard to run. There's no consistency, no continuity, a lot of moving parts. It's just been rough on them this season up front. And it just hasn't gotten better from them. It seems like the run game has gotten worse and worse. I think their best rushing output might have been week 1 versus the Colts. And I think it's been a steady decline since then. And, it's rough. And then you lose a guy like Pouncey in the middle of your offense as your pivot man. And it just makes it that much tougher to have consistency and be able to run the football. So, the run game has struggled. And the offensive line woes have taken a toll on them. And it's rough. It's rough. You don't have your starting left tackle. You don't have your center now. Right tackle is a mess. It's rough. It's rough on the Chargers, for sure. So, in any event, that's going to do it for Sunday Night Football overtime. Chargers fall at home to the Pittsburgh Steelers, 24-17. You know what? At some point, you got to stop blaming the Chargers and just give credit to the Steelers, man. They took a third-string quarterback. They got off to a fast start, made him comfortable, allowed him to just simply make the plays that were there. They didn't ask him to play outside of himself. They didn't ask him to push the football down the field. And again, I beat up the Chargers a bit for that because they allowed him to check it down to James Conner out of the backfield and had that be his outlet and had that be his safety blanket. And they didn't make him beat them. And that was supposed to be the goal coming into the game. Instead, Rivers has an ill-advised backwards pass that goes for a scoop and score. He follows that up with one of 2 first-half interceptions and 3 on the game for Rivers. And he never really gave his team a chance. And the Steelers, again, give them credit. They pressed the issue in this game. They started out fast, and they took the pressure off of a young quarterback and helped him get his first victory and his first career NFL start. That's impressive. It really was by the Steelers. Both teams leave the game at 2-4, and the Steelers don't look now, but they're right in the midst of a divisional race, man. They're right there at 2-4 in that all of a sudden wide open AFC North. I told you the Browns were going to struggle this year. Told you I wasn't buying the hype. And, today might have been the last straw for me. I picked the Browns. I thought they could win at home. Jumped out to a 20-6 lead. I'm feeling really good about that pick. And they blew it. And I can't wait to watch how Baker pissed away this game. I heard him bitching about the officiating. He threw 3 picks. Also got banged up in the game. So I gotta see what happened there, man. But really disappointed. It's really disappointed all the way around. But in any event, that's gonna do it for your man Louie T, man. I really appreciate you guys sticking it out with me. And remember, rep your squad tomorrow, 7 p.m. Join me as your man Louie T is ready to take on all callers and talk about the games, talk about these teams, man. So looking forward to chopping it up with you guys. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not the best NFL coverage it could be. Until next time, man, I thank you guys for joining me. You guys have a blessed night. We'll see you tomorrow. Steelers get the win, are now 2-4 in the season after a 24-17 victory over the Los Angeles Chargers in Los Angeles. I will see you guys next time. Have a good one.